It was 2005, and I just graduated university. Was planning on like doing, the full academia thing, PhD and so on. I studied physics, but I needed to make some money, so I started applying for game shows. Randomly, I saw like an ad for some game shows in the UK, and then one of the shows I got on, and it turned out they were looking for 5 beginners to teach them how to play poker. And so it was my first time actually ever on TV, and first time playing poker all in one go. And I just it was just like meeting, it's like meeting your long lost love. I just fell in love with the game so much. I was like, I need to become a professional.
What did you fall in love with it in that first moment?
Well, I won the very first game I played, so that helps. But I think in part, like I've always been like pathologically competitive, especially back then. I just loved anything, especially if it was a game that I could beat the boys at. It was like a boys' game and I could beat them at it. Just ticked every box in my personality.
Is that why you got into physics as well? Or was that something natural?
Both. I mean, I've naturally just found it fascinating. And then I was also, comparatively good at it. But also, I went to an all-girls school. So I was actually very... there were no like boys of my age in our family. There were obviously the other relatives who are older, but I was never around men or boys until the age of 18. Yet I always was wanting to be like in that kind of environment. I always liked classically like male interests, video games. As I said, like hyper competitive in just anything I did. So yeah, maybe that's partially why as well. Physics. I was like, oh,
I can be around.
I can beat the boys. I can be around boys. Not thought of it that way. Also, like I also got really into heavy metal at that time as well, which is again very male dominated. I was like trying to learn all these like super nerdy guitar riffs and I don't know. Yeah, it was definitely.
Were you boy crazy? I mean,
yeah,
okay.
It's definitely interested in them, and. I remember like, I was like, I want to have a gang of boys who I'm friends with that we go out and do boy shit.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to do that until I was like 17, when I was like kind of old enough to like get a boyfriend and then become friends with all his friends.
Interesting. So then you ended up, when you fell in love with poker, did you just become obsessed with it and start, do you play it more mathematically or intuitively, or do you have like an edge as a woman because you get to use both?
I mean, yeah, that's actually, I'd say my main edge nowadays is so basically poker, when I first learned to play back then, it was very much more like art. It was more intuitive. There was some math that people did, like, calculating pot odds and that sort of thing. But
what was that?
So calculating the odds, like if someone bets an amount and you have to decide, and there's a certain number of cards you can hit to get to make the hand you need to calculate whether you're getting the right odds.
Got it.
But beyond that, there was very little math back then because people didn't really understand. No one knew the game theory underlying the game. But then we had what's called kind of like, it was like a data revolution in poker, where all these like analyses softwares started being made, and people started like studying those. And that made the game become way more mathematical.
Interesting.
And much more like a science. And so I cut my teeth on the early version, which was much more intuitive. And at the same time, then like when all these solvers came out, I also really enjoyed that side of it, because it was like, oh, cool, I get to use my like science brain. But then after a while, it actually started becoming less fun, because it became almost more like a game of a bit more like chess, where it's like, this is what the perfect solution is. You need to try and memorize how this works across as many, a broad range of scenarios as possible. So it became more about like memorization,
right?
Which took a bit of the magic away for me personally. Some people love that side of it, but I was like, eh. Although now, I mean, like I said, I've retired now, but I play very rarely. But it feels like now it's almost become full circle, where you can do both.
Right.
And the very, very best players are the ones who can combine, they know all the math, but they also have these like sick people reading skills, and like really, really like just like dialed in with their intuition into the different situations.